Okay, welcome back. The markets, of course, will be watching the big data point, which is US jobs. But, sometimes we look at history, we look at the past and say, well, will it be as material going forward as well? More often than not, it is not. Let's ask that and let's put that to Rajiv Agarwal, Managing Partner and Fund Manager at Doordarshi India Fund. He's with us here in the studios. Rajiv, great to have you with us here in the studios. And you'll see and take in all the Ganesh festivities and the color and the vibrancy in the city if you're here.
Yeah.
You've been here to attend some conferences, you were telling us.
That's right.
So we'll get feedback on that as well and what your takeaways from the ground. But this big jobs number out of the US tonight, how important is this?
Yeah.
And for markets, what matters is whether you get a 25 or a 50. I was saying earlier, maybe 25 is better.
Yep.
A 50 perhaps will cause some worries and panic.
Sure.
Would you agree?
I would agree. I think given what Jerome Powell has already talked about, it is quite obvious to us that they have laid the groundwork and they want it steady. They don't want to be big moves because that might spook the market. And given how strongly he came up in the Jackson Hole conference about moving gradually and ensuring that the employment remains strong, we think 25 basis points is pretty much what the market is expecting, and I don't think Fed will want to surprise the market.
So 25 it is?
Basically. Is what I'm expecting, yeah. And then we do expect a few more cuts during the rest of the year, so that I saw a recent report. They are talking about maybe like 1 to 1.5% of the total cut in the next 1 year, and we'll see if that plays out.
This seasonality, which everybody is talking about in presidential election years.
Yeah.
Do you think it will work this way? I mean, there's a clear seasonality that markets go down into the election in November.
Yeah.
So will it work that way once again? And what does it mean?
I think it really depends on how the policy is looking from the two presidential nominees of the corresponding parties. Clearly, if Trump comes, I think he is somebody who will be cutting taxes and really boosting the market a lot.
No, I'm saying from here to the elections.
Oh, I see.
After that, we'll see whoever comes.
Yeah. I think from here till the election, there is volatility, and I think we are really seeing that. So I think it just depends on which side the market wakes up on a particular morning.
So, to go back to the point that you were making earlier, 25 basis points, I akin that to, let's say, having a slight headache, you have an aspirin and you can keep dancing, right? Versus having some major antibiotics or steroids because, you have a throbbing migraine.
Yeah.
So if it is the former, that you have this little aspirin, 25 basis points, will the Wall Street bulls keep dancing? Is that your base case right now?
I think, frankly, the markets have run up quite a bit this year. And at this stage, really for the markets to keep dancing, you have seen what has happened to the chip sector, which was really running up a lot, right? The whole artificial intelligence and the whole question around that. So I do think at this point, really, it's much more company specific rather than the overall markets, because markets have already priced in the rate cuts. So there is no real drive for the markets to continue to run up unless there is a big policy move. And so that is really what our base case is, that at this point, it's very, very hard for the markets to keep running up the way it has unless there is...
The reason I was asking was that, till now, if NVIDIA and that entire set was giving you such handsome returns, there was little reason for people to look at other markets, emerging markets or India. And that was one reason cited as why we didn't get that much foreign money.
Yeah.
Do you see that changing? And then we'll talk about your India view.
Yeah, so I think it was, I was only reading yesterday that some US mission is here with a huge 1.5 trillion of money visiting India. So I think the fact that money is coming to India, but not in such big force, is because the US markets have been doing very, very well. And I do think that will continue to be the case unless something surprising happens either on the US side or on the India side.
Interesting, Rajiv. Surbhi has set the tone for a Friday. Dancing, I'll tell you what, personally, if you need to continue dancing, it's a large malt and you're up and running. But that's about the Friday evening. Let's talk about, markets and Indian markets in particular, because that's what brings you to India this time around. With the interactions that you've had in the last few days, I recall you saying you like banks and financials. That's your top theme, I think so.
Yeah.
Any better ideas that you've picked up in the last few days? Are you sitting on some cash? Because you said you're looking at good ideas.
Yeah.
So have you raised some cash?
So we have some cash. We always like to have some cash. But we are also very mindful of the fact that there's a lot of momentum in the market. And you don't want to start ticking off your positions too soon. I think being here, you realize just how much of excitement there is about the markets. And everybody feels that this is a secular bull run, which will continue. If it becomes too exciting, then you start having to take cash. So I think we are on the verge where we might start taking cash from some of our positions, but I think other positions may still be giving us good opportunities.
Last thing you want is to leave a party when the music is really going to pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since Nigel mentioned financials, which seems to be the space that you really like, there's a fierce debate raging.
Yeah.
Because there's one side of financials like capital market related stocks and companies, right?
Correct.
They've been doing really well.
Yeah.
And then there are the pure play banks, and that's where the huge debate is that whether NIMs will cool off and deposits are still a challenge, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Some downgrades have started coming in as well.
Right.
But are you still optimistic?
So I think on the banking and finance space, we think the reason why they have not done as well is because of all the issues that you are mentioning. And that is why they become interesting to us. Because it allows us to say there are only pockets of value in this market. And one of them we think is banking and financial services.
Can you name a few of those stocks that you like?
Sure, happy to do that. I mean, before I say that, clearly this is not a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a disclosure.
We want to ensure that most of the stocks that I will talk about are things that we own, so we are clearly biased, and people should do their own work. But very recently, I presented a company called Jammu and Kashmir Bank, which again, many people would not necessarily like. There are a lot of uncertainties with the fact that there's an election coming up in Jammu and Kashmir. The CEO and MD is up for a renewal of his term. So those are some uncertainties, but clearly the bank is doing very well. If you see how it is performed since Baldev Prakash became the CEO, I think he has done quite well. And if he continues, I think maybe that momentum will continue. But the risk is, of course,
any other names, Rajiv, since you're in the mood to name names?
You're being a little charitable, giving us specifics. So what else?
So I think some of the other names we have talked about in the past. I think we like Manappuram Finance, which we have talked in the past. Manappuram Finance is a company which is into gold loan. Gold loan has again started coming back for them. And then some of the other sectors. MFI, I think it will be a challenge for them, especially with Ashirvad, where they were trying to do an IPO, and it remains to be seen what happens there.
That is going into a funk. I mean,
the MFI, the whole sector is in a little bit of a funk, and we'll see how long that continues, whether it's a few quarters or a few years. We don't know that.
All right, Rajiv, great speaking with you. Thank you very much for dropping by. Appreciate it. Have a good visit and safe travel back. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Well,